What's your ethis? I quit story. I was 20 and had been working in a call center for just over a year. I was promoted to an assistant manager with a new compensation structure that was identical to the other assistant manager. Basically you got your wage, a very small of the total office revenue, and then 10% of your own revenue from when you worked on the phone. My immediate manager and office supervisor gave me this without confirming it with the regional manager, who was on a 2-month vacation in the DR. When I got my first check after being promoted, there was no bonus. I was told it would be corrected soon. When I got my second check after being promoted, there was no bonus. I was told it would be corrected soon. When I got my third check after being promoted, there was no bonus and I was told we had to wait for the regional manager to come back and authorize it. I was being paid weekly and worked another 4 weeks under the premise that I would get a lump sum when the regional manager returned. The problem was that I sold significantly more than the other office manager. The back pay had grown to such a large amount that when the regional manager did return, he questioned why the office manager had given me this structure, as he considered it to be too much money. On my next check there was no lump sum and I was told that they were figuring out a new structure. My following shift I stayed home and got a frantic call from the office manager asking me why I wasn't at work. I told him I couldn't afford to go to work. He said, "Why can't you afford it?" "Because I have been getting ripped off for 2 months. Call me back when you have my money or don't call me at all." Never did get paid. Currently in the US military, was back and forth about re-enlisting for another 4 years. Have done 9 to this point. I have a 3-year-old daughter at home who I haven't seen in almost 2 years for more than 3 weeks. Was talking to an officer in my chain of command when I told him my thoughts. I had just received orders to remain overseas for an additional 2 years. His exact words were, "You've already missed 2 years of her life, you can afford to lose 2 more. I went to my command career counselor office that day and signed my intention to separate. I was a new sous chef at a country club. Chef wouldn't let anyone but himself do the ordering. His ordering method was to go over a sheet of paper hanging on the line where people wrote down what we were out of, not what we were nearly out of, but what we were completely out of. Anytime I'd try to add items that we were close to out of on, he'd lose his we were constantly out of things. One day, we had a huge Easter breakfast event. Dip chef didn't order near enough eggs and we were out of all sorts of other random items. I was out front making omelets for members. Ran out of eggs and stood around for 15 minutes waiting for more while the members became increasingly frustrated, then angry. Went to the back to see chef yucking it up with the floor manager. Handed him my apron and told him to pound sand. Was at that job for less than 2 weeks, but we're out of sand. Started my first job at 15 as a dishwasher for a friend's family's new Korean restaurant. They were my neighbors. My typical work day was 4 PM to 9 PM on the clock. Afterwards I was expected to stay and help close shop, and instead of getting paid for those extra 3 hours I was given a meal for compensation. To be fair, there are laws prohibiting minors from working too long or too late, and honestly I didn't mind it as the food was incredible. After about a year I'm now 16 and due to the minimal wait staff I was expected to work as a waiter busboy in between dishes. Fair enough. I was getting sick of the same old anyways, so I came in during the week to start training, and since they knew I was already familiar with the menu and whatnot, I wasn't a shadow, I was just on my own and winging it. I made a mistake, that is not remembering soup or salad, so I went back upstairs to ask, and when I returned with my answer I was insulted by my manager for not taking this seriously enough. Alright. A couple months go by and I'm waiting tables and dishwashing all while being micromanaged by my manager. Well, one weekend a Mardi Gras parade was being held downtown where the restaurant is located, so it'd easily be one of our busiest days that year. I was scheduled for 4 PM to 10 PM, but they asked if I'd come in that morning around 8 or so. About an hour or 2 into my new shift there was a mountain of dishes I was being expected to maintain while also waiting tables. My manager walks into the back where I am and the dialogue goes like this: "Leif, what are you doing? Washing dishes? Go ask table 6 if they need refills." "Yes ma'am." I walk out the back and to the front of the store while she's tailgating me and pick up the pitcher of water. As I pick it up she asks, "Do you even know what you're doing?" At this point I'm pretty fed up and kindly respond with, "Yeah, I know how to pour water." She didn't like that and told me that I need to look at her with respect and that if I didn't like it here I should just leave. so I left them with mountains of dishes and thirsty customers. Know your worth. I used to work at Dollar General. I was about 5 months pregnant at the time and had a lot of tailbone pain. I normally worked freight because even though I was pregnant, I was still the most efficient at it. At some point my manager had gotten into a serious car accident and couldn't return to work for a few months. This basically promoted our assistant manager to manager. Dollar General does inventory once a year for each store and it's pretty much hell. The only good part about it is that you don't get a truck that week, so there's no freight to put up. The bad part about it is that you get a huge truck the next week. So we get through inventory and the next week we got the huge truck as expected. I ended up having a scheduling conflict due to an appointment and wasn't able to come in during the day on a Thursday to put up freight, but could come in that night or another day. So instead of the assistant manager letting me do that, she just took me off the schedule completely and didn't replace me with anyone. All while we have the biggest truck of the year. It was pretty obvious she was doing it to be petty, so I called the manager bawling my eyes out because it wasn't the first time something like this has happened. You know who got yelled at? I did. I was 5 months pregnant. Putting up freight even though I was in a lot of pain doing it, was the hardest worker there, and the assistant manager was being petty. So I was fed up, clocked out for lunch that same day, and never went back. Was at a job for 3 years. Consistently in the top 3 of my department in terms of performance. Asked my supervisor repeatedly if I could be recommended for advancement promotion and he always told me he was trying his best to get me new opportunities. Found out from a friend in a different department that I'd been considered a top candidate for 4 different promotions and each time my supervisor had blocked it. When I confronted him with this information he told me it was true and he did it because I could never find someone who does what you do without paying them a lot more. Internally said F this. I quit and found a new job within 3 months. Took all my PTO and on the day I came back I quit 2 hours into the day, leaving him high and dry at a peak time. F that dude. I interviewed for a corporate accounting role because public accounting was much less pay and a lot more hours. Was told in the interview that it was show up between 8 and 9, leave between 4 and 5. There'd be no more working late nights or having to work on weekends, which was great. I took the job and within 2 months realized they were lying through their teeth. First off, there was absolutely no training on their processes. I was given enough work for 3 people, with no direction on how to do it. My manager was so scatterbrained, he could never give me any help when I asked. No one talked for 8 hours a day, and it was just an unbelievably bad work culture. I'd get to work usually at 8:30, and leave at 4:30 while eating lunch at my desk. I came in one day and was told, since you're leaving so early, I can only hope you're working from home. Then the next week, we're told we have to come in for a full day Saturday because we had New Year's Day off that Monday. My final straw was when I left at 2:30 one day for a doctor's appointment. When I came in the next day, my manager pulled me into a room and said that I didn't have enough accrued PTO to do that, and he was going to dock my pay in a salaried position. Went in the next day, told him it wasn't working out and put my 2 weeks in. On my last day, he told me I could leave at 11:30, so I did. When I got my final paycheck, he docked my pay for the remainder of that day. Luckily, the recruiter who got me the job followed up to ask what happened, and I was completely open and honest with her. Apparently, that manager has a very high turnover rate for the position I was in, and the recruiter told me that the CFO is looking into replacing him. I worked for a company for over a year that was contracted to make deliveries for Amazon. The vans they equipped us with were terribly maintained and fully unequipped to handle winter weather. I worked with the company through their first winter, which meant sliding all over the road when it was icy and getting stuck constantly every time we had snow. I never had a major accident, though I did have 2 or 3 close calls where only minor damage was incurred to the van. I decided to stick it out through the summer, when the weather was obviously much better. All summer long they promised us that new and better vans were coming. September rolls around, no vans. October, no vans. November, no vans. That month we got our first real snow. I got back from my route and immediately put in my notice. My boss told me they would be getting new vans by the end of the year. I told her that was nice and walked. I wonder if they ever did get new vans? My gut says no, but my heart says also no. I've seen the old vans driving around town, so I'm gonna say no. I was in the same position for 2 years and was actively looking at other positions within the same company. Bosses knew about it. It was just time for a change and to advance my career. Great opportunity came up and I was offered the position. However, my current leadership blocked me because I received a promotion 6 months prior. That promotion was literally an automatic email that said congrats, you're now level 2 instead of level 1 because I had met my sales attainment and completed all my yearly trainings. Literally an automated email stopped me from getting promoted and bosses said I had to wait another 18 months. Left that company and went to a competitor doing the same thing for better pay and significantly more support. Was working at a restaurant in Mboro-TN. Found a better job that actually gave me hours and went in to put my 2-week notice. Was more like a week, a few days due to timing of the new gig, in out of courtesy. I got a lecture about how I could never come back to the company since it wasn't a full 2 weeks. I then suggested politely that that's great. Let's say today is my last day then. Was such a relief. I had a manager who was just trying too hard. Our team meetings were just yelling sessions because we did not work as fast as she expected. She would commit 2 days to the client for something that would take 3 weeks. She got her comeuppance when more than half the team quit within a month of each other. I gave her 15 days notice. She told me I should stay for longer else she'll make sure I'll never be able to work for the company again. I was willing to sit with her and help her with the tasks handover in the 15 days. But once she threatened me, I told her I was not staying longer and enjoyed my 15 days notice. Arrived at the bar to work my shift only to discover that the owners had sacked my manager because there was, in their view, too much wastage. At the time, he was recovering from major surgery on his arm. He had 3 young children and an 8 months pregnant wife. They thought they were losing money because not every drop of beer poured went into somebody's drink, which is just a fact of life in a bar, and not because their idle toe-rag son brother, father-son owner duo, kept coming in with his mates and demanding we give them drinks they didn't have to pay for. Quit on the spot. Went to the manager's son's christening a while later. A year or 2 after that, was told the bailiffs had come to visit the bar and left with quite a lot of furniture. I was working in a particular role for a small charity. It was already a busy role, but then due to changes within the company my role got ridiculous. I was the senior manager looking after the budgets and accounts and acting as an accountant, so had to teach myself all about charity tax law, which is not easy. I was managing marketing, media, communications, strategic implementation, a reception and all customer service, a physical and online shop, 10 members of staff, legal compliance including insurance and data protection, health and safety, HR, reporting and end-of-year audits, preparing papers for and attending trustee meetings, procurement as well as general meetings, to the point where my job had gone way beyond my original job description anymore. Anyway, despite all the extra responsibilities, my boss still expected me to have time to do everything to an extremely high standard and couldn't possibly understand that there would be any reason that I was overwhelmed apart from me being strange how everyone in that place also complained about being overworked, and that at one point the staff were going to go to the trustee board to see if they could get him replaced. It was always everyone else's fault. He sat me down at my 12-month probation meeting and said that I wasn't doing well enough to be given the job permanently, so he wanted to extend my probation by another 3 months, in which time he must see improvements. And what did I think I needed to improve? I said that I had been telling him for months what I needed to improve, which was for him to take the fact that everyone was overworked seriously and his expectations of what a human being could achieve were ridiculous at best, which was apparently never going to happen, so I quit. He said he didn't want that. I said I did, and just quit. It had been on my mind for a while, but that pushed me over the edge. A part of me wanted to stay, to go to the probation hearing and let everyone in HR know exactly what he was like, but I was just so done with the whole thing. Best decision ever. I now have an amazing job I love for a different charity that actually values what I do, and it feels great. Summer job in a downtown, scuzzy part of the city, retail store, repainting the wooden fence around the parking lot. The fence wood was a pattern, so on an angle you could see through it. I was painting the one side and a guy walked up on the other side and started pissing on the other side. A stream of piss almost on my head. I yelled and said, "Get the hell out of here." He continued to piss, and then dropped to a squat for a number 2, got up, packed up the paintbrush and paint, went inside for a break. Boss said, "What are you doing in? The fence is not done." I said, "You don't pay me enough to get pissed on." I had a manager who just didn't like me. I don't know why, it happens, but she couldn't keep it professional, and acted as if every mistake I had made on purpose, just to mess with her. Meanwhile everyone else told me that they were super happy with me, and I was a great worker. So she had work that Saturday, and when I turned on my PC that Monday morning I had about 10 emails from her, all with screenshots and rude remarks like, "Why is it so hard for you to follow the rules? And how did you not know this?" While she was the one that trained me. F that I'm worth way more than that. My boss had my crew and I cut corners on a job. I was fairly new to the position and took what he said as the way it was supposed to get done. Inspectors then came and checked the job because of an unrelated screw up by another company and in turn found out what we had done. Boss then blamed the whole thing on me and denied he ever told me to do it. It was done. Spent the next 2 days replacing all previous work to the way it should have been. Boss then told me that he was not going to pay me for the days of work, 14 hours each day, because I was fixing my F-ups. All the while during the 2 days getting called a reffing idiot and a liar. F you. I quit. I proved to the CIO, using math, that the help desk could not lower its abandon rate to an acceptable point without hiring more people. She responded by telling me that my team just didn't have enough discipline, and then I got written up. I quit the next day and told my team they will replace me with a manager whom the CIO will let hire more people. I was right.